Mastering the workplane in Modo is an essential component to becoming an expert modeler. So let's jump in and explore how it works. The workplane is this light gray grid in our viewport. You can just barely see it. It's this light gray grid. And what makes the workplane so powerful is that it's an interactive snapping guide when we're using our modeling tools, and actually a lot of tools inside of Modo. And it's interactive because wherever we rotate our scene, the workplane is going to change its position. See, I just have the orbit tool kind of held down right now, and watch very, very carefully, because when I continue to orbit around, it's going to snap to a different plane here in a second. There it is. See, it snapped right there. See that changed perspective? That right there, that change. So the workplane is going to change its position based off of how our viewport is rotated around, and it's here to help us. It's here to help us model very, very quickly. Now, before we get too much further, I want to talk about this the 3D compass down here in the lower left-hand portion of the viewport. You probably already are a little bit familiar with the use of a 3D compass. Each one of these handles represents the position of that axis in the three-dimensional world. The red is the X, the green is the Y, and the blue is the Z. So it's going to show us which direction these axes are pointed in. Well, this light gray square in the 3D compass represents the workplane and the current position of the workplane. You can see that the workplane is kind of positioned this way at the moment, but the moment I rotate my scene down some, look, both the workplane has snapped to like the floor, the bottom of our scene, and its icon in the three-dimensional compass has also changed. Okay, so let's use the workplane, and I think once I start using it, you're going to start to see the power of the workplane. Like I said before, it's an interactive snapping guide for our modeling tools. Now, I'm just going to grab the basic cube tool here, click on it, and I want to draw out a cube. Now, mine looks like mine's flipped around. There we go. Draw out a cube, and I'll give it a little bit of depth. I want to drop the tool, and I want to zoom out just a little bit so you can see what happened. So the workplane is currently set up like this. And notice which direction my cube was created on. Now, if we back up, I'm going to delete that cube, and we're going to do it one more time. Now, see the workplane? The cube tool is going to automatically snap to that workplane. So I know beyond any reasonable doubt that is snapping along the x-axis, the x and y-axis, because that's what it's telling me down here in my compass. So I know beyond any reasonable doubt that that is right there on the x and y axes, okay? So let's delete this guy one more time. This time I'm going to rotate my viewport down a little bit. Keep cruising. See how it snaps like that? So now we're on the xz axes. So when I create my cube now, look where it's creating it. It's creating it at the location of the workplane along the xz axes. So what's great about the workplane is it makes modeling very, very quick. So instead of having to, rotate things and move them into position, I could just use the workplane to help me out. So I can just make a cube like that, and it works with all the other tools inside of Modo. So if I wanted to make, a cylinder, I can make a cylinder, and it's going to snap to the direction of the workplane. This makes modeling extraordinarily fast, and the more you use the workplane, the more you're going to find it, to be a critical part of your entire modeling process. I love the workplane. It just makes things so fast and so easy. In other modeling applications, you have to go over to like the mod quad to accurately place and create items along a series of axes. Well, in Modo, the developers are incredibly intelligent, and they've created this workplane to let us use just one viewport. So jump into using the workplane. I think you're going to find it's extraordinarily helpful. But if you don't like working with the workplane, we can turn it off. If we put our cursor into the viewport and hit the O key to bring up our viewport settings, we could go over to the visibility tab, and one of the options that we have to turn off is the workplane. There it is, right here in the center, workplane, and now it's off. So we can toggle it on and off, but I would really, really recommend you get to learn how to use the workplane. It's going to completely transform how you create your scene and how you create your objects.